All right, so today we're doing a deep dive into someone who I think is a really fascinating and talented actress, Sydney Sweeney. But we wanted to go a little deeper than just like the surface level stuff, you know? So we're looking at this C Magazine profile on her from a couple of winters ago, winter 2021, 2022.
Yeah.
And just to get us started, for people who maybe know her as, you know, that kind of like ice queen,
Right.
like the teen drama queen, what's something that we learn about her in this profile that might surprise us?
Well, I think this article does a really good job of like naming the thing, right?
Right.
Like it talks about those roles that she plays so well, like
Yep.
her character in White Lotus,
I see
Olivia,
that,
that
right.
energy, Cassie from Euphoria. But then it kind of contrasts that with who she seems to be in real life.
Yeah.
And it says that she's like surprisingly down to earth, maybe even a little anxious about fame.
Oh, that's interesting. They kind of just like humanizes her a little bit more because she's so good at playing those like very strong, almost like intimidating characters.
Exactly.
And to think that maybe she's not like that in her real life.
Right. It's not like she walks around
Right.
like giving everyone the death stare.
Exactly. Yeah, like we don't want her to be typecast as like, you know,
Right.
ice queen.
And it's interesting because that kind of leads into another point the article makes about her always being cast as a teenager.
Oh, yeah, that's so true. I mean, it makes sense because she can pull it off, but she's getting to an age now where it's like, okay, there's got to be something more there, right?
Yeah.
Like, why these roles?
And what I thought was really fascinating was in the talks about how she had this very unusual high school experience. She missed like 117 days of high school because she was so focused on acting.
Seriously, 117 days.
117 days.
That's more than half the year.
I know, it's wild.
Oh, my God.
So it makes you wonder if by taking on these roles, she's almost trying to relive that time
Wow.
in a way that she couldn't because she was so focused on her career even then.
That is fascinating. So it's like almost like she's going back and like reconstructing those years
Yeah,
through her work and maybe even like understanding herself better in the process.
exactly. And it really highlights how deliberate her acting choices seem to be.
Right.
It's not just about playing a teenager. It's about understanding that period of life.
Yeah.
You know, the pressures, the insecurities, all of it.
Wow. Yeah, she's really thinking about this stuff. That's really cool. It's like she's almost making up for lost time in a way.
Yeah. And, you know, the article goes on to talk about something that I think is really relevant for young stars today.
Yeah.
Which is this whole, like, social media tightrope.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, how do you stay relevant
Yeah.
and, you know, use it to your advantage, but also not get sucked into the whole thing?
Not become a slave to the algorithm.
Yeah. And it seems like Sydney Sweeney has a really interesting take on it.
What does she say?
Well, for one thing, she's very aware of the business side of it.
Right.
Like, she knows that she needs that exposure, especially, you know, being relatively early in her career.
Totally.
But then on the flip side, she talks about how she's really wary of the pitfalls.
Like what specifically?
Well, she mentions, like, the pressure it puts on young women, especially around body image and, you know, constantly comparing yourself to others.
Oh, yeah. That's huge. And it's so hard to avoid on social media.
It is. And I think it's really refreshing that she's willing to admit that. Like, she even uses the word jealousy in the article,
Wow.
which you don't hear very often from celebrities.
Not at all.
Usually it's all like, love yourself, positive vibes only.
Right. Exactly.
So the fact that she's willing to be honest about those feelings,
Yeah.
I think is really cool.
It makes her feel more relatable, you know?
Definitely.
Like we're all human, even if we don't have millions of followers.
Right.
So she's aware of the pressures.
And here's where her business degree comes in.
Okay.
She understands that if she leans too hard into being an influencer, it could actually hurt her career as an actress.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, she doesn't want to just be seen as a product spokesperson.
Right.
She wants to be taken seriously for her craft.
Right. Because there is a difference between being famous and being respected.
Exactly.
And she seems to really get that.
Yeah, she's playing the long game, which I
Right.
think is really smart.
Totally. So we've got this picture of her like super driven, very strategic, but also down to earth and like self-aware.
And then the article throws in this curveball,
What's that?
vintage cars.
Oh, yeah. She's really into that, right?
Yeah, she's restoring a 1969 Ford Bronco.
I love that.
And it's not just like a little side project. She's like really into it.
Like hands-on.
Oh, yeah, she's getting her hands dirty.
That's awesome.
Working on the transmission, the brakes, like the whole thing.
Wow. That's dedication. I kind of want to see a picture of her like under the hood now,
Right.
covered in grease.
It just shows that she's not afraid to get her hands dirty.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. I love that about her.
And, it kind of connects back to what we were saying before
How so?
about her wanting to understand how things work,
Oh, I see what you're
whether
saying.
it's a car engine or, the Hollywood system.
Totally.
She's not just along for the ride.
She's in the driver's seat. It
Exactly.
makes you see her as like this total badass.
Yeah.
Like she's not afraid to roll up her sleeves and get to work.
Exactly. And that ties into something else the article mentions
Okay.
about her feeling this pressure to prove herself as a serious actress.
Yeah, like she's got to be more than just the it girl of the moment.
Exactly. And it made me think,
Mm-hmm.
is that pressure even greater for young actresses today?
Oh, with social media and everything?
Yeah, totally. It's like you have to be constantly proving your worth.
And not just like your talent,
Right.
but also like
Right.
your brand, your whole online persona.
It's exhausting.
It really is.
And it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
where does ambition end
Mm-hmm.
and authenticity begin?
That's such a good question because it's like we're all trying to figure that out, right?
Absolutely.
Well, I think Sydney Sweeney is someone who's definitely figuring it out on her own terms.
She's not afraid to be herself.
And that's really refreshing to see, especially in Hollywood.
Definitely.
Well, this has been so
It
insightful.
was my pleasure.
I feel like I understand Sydney Sweeney so much better now. And for our listeners, if you want to learn more about her, we'll be sure to link that C Magazine profile in the show notes.
Great idea.
All right, until next time, keep deep diving.